Ram. So we are reading from Bhagavad Gita chapter. We finished chapter 7. We will start chapter 8 today. The last verse of chapter 7 was Krishna saying, Shadhivuto Shadhidoibang ma Shadhijakum Chame Prayan Kale Vichavan Devidu Chukta Achitash Chukta Chetasha. So naturally, this new term for Arjuna, that is Arjuna is asking, what are these terms? Shadhivutam, Shadhidevam, Shadhijogam. So Arjuna is asking that question at the beginning of this chapter 8. This chapter 8 is called Attaining the Supreme. And the answer of these questions, and there are 7 questions. Attaining the Supreme. Arjuna Vacha. Kim tat brahma kim adhatma kim karma purushottam. Adhibhutam chakim praptam adhidevam kimuchat. Arjuna Vacha, Arjuna said, Kim, what? Tat, that, Brahman. Kim, what? Adhi, Adhyatmam, the self. Kim, what? Karma, creative activities. Purushottam, O Supreme Person. Adhibhutam, the material manifestation. Cha, and Kim, what? Proktam is called. Adhidevam, the demigod. Kim, what? Uchate is called. Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahma? What is the self? What are creative activities? What is the material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me. In this chapter, Lord Krishna answers different questions from Arjuna, beginning with what is Brahma. The Lord also explains karma, devotional service, and yoga principles, and devotional service in its pure form. The Srimad Bhagavatam explains that the Supreme Absolute Truth is known as Brahma, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. In addition, the living entity, the individual soul, is also called Brahman. Arjuna also inquires about Atma, which refers to body, soul, and mind. According to the Vedic dictionary, Atma refers to the minds, body, and senses also. Arjuna has addressed the Supreme Lord as Purushottam, Supreme Person, which means that he was putting these questions not simply to a friend, but to the Supreme Person, knowing him to be the Supreme Authority, able to give definitive answers. Text. অধিযোগ্য কথম প্রক্ত অধিযোগ্য কথম পত্র দেহস্মিন মধুসূদন প্রয়াণ কালে চ কথম দেহ নিয়তাত্মভি. So previous verse, 4 questions. Here 3 questions. অধিযোগ্য অধিযোগ্য পত্র. Previous verse, 5 questions. Here 2 questions. 27. Adhijogga, the Lord of Sacrifice. Katham, how, ka, who, atra, here, dehe, in the body, Ashmin, this, Madhusudana, or Madhusudana. Prayan Kale, at the time of death, cha, and Katham, how, Deoshmi, you can be known Niyato Atmavi by the self-control. Who is the Lord of sacrifice and how does he live in the body, O Madhusudana? How can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? कितना खराब रास्ता है. Lord of sacrifice may refer to either Indra or Vishnu. Vishnu is the chief of the primal demigods, including Brahma and Shiva, and Indra is the chief of the administrative demigods. Both Indra and Vishnu are worshipped by yoga performances. But here Arjuna asks, who is actually the Lord of yoga and how the Lord is residing within the body of the living entity? Arjuna addresses the Lord as Madhusudan because Krishna once killed a demon named Madhu. Actually, these questions, which are of the nature of doubts, should not have arisen in the mind of Arjuna because Arjuna is a Krishna conscious devotee. Therefore, these doubts are like demons. Since Krishna is so expert in killing demons, Arjuna here addresses him as Madhusudan so that Krishna might kill the demoniac doubts that arise in Krishna's mind. Now the word Prayan Kale in this verse is very significant because whatever we do in life will be tested at the time of death. In Bengali there is a proverb, Janma Karma Jaman Taman Murte Janle Hoy. Whatever you have taken bath, whatever you have done, activities, but death is the final exam. Arjuna is very anxious to know of those who are constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness. What should be their position at that final moment? At the time of death, all the bodily functions are disrupted and the mind is not in a proper condition. Thus, disturbed by the bodily situation, one may not be able to remember the Supreme Lord. Maharaj Kuleshakar, a great devotee, prays, my dear Lord, just now I am quite healthy and it is better that I die immediately so that the swan of my mind can seek entrance at the stem of your lotus feet. Krishna, Tadapadiyo, Tadiyo, Pada, Pankaj Panjaratman, Atmam, Vaddeva Vishetu, Manusha Rajahans. Why today? Because Prana Prayana Shamaye Kapavad. When I leave body that time, my voice will be choked by mucus, bile, yeah. So how will you remember it that time? That is why I want to die now. The metaphor is used because the swan, a bird of the water, takes pleasure in the digging into the lotus flower. Its sporting proclivity is to enter the lotus flower. Maharaj Kuleshakar says to the Lord, now my mind is undisturbed and I am quite healthy. If I die immediately thinking of a lotus feet, then I am sure that my performance of your devotional service will become perfect. But if I have wait for many natural death, then I do not know how it will happen, because at the time, the bodily functions will be disrupted, my throat will be choked up, and I do not know whether I am able to chant your name. Better let me die immediately. Arjun questions how a person can fix his mind on Krishna's lotus feet at such a time. That is why our scripture actually, it's the art of dying. Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj is listening. Art of dying, how to leave his body. Here Bhagavad Gita, Arjun also is, yes, I am ready to die. So our process is how to leave this body, art of dying. Now, of these 7 questions, Krishna is answering. Sri Bhagavan Vachu, Aksharam Brahma Paramam, Shabhavo Adhyatma Uchate, Bhuto Bhavot Karo, Bhuto Bhavot Bhavo Karo, Vishargo Karma Sangita. Sri Bhagavan Vachu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Aksharam, indestructible, Brahman, Paramam, transcendental, Shabhava, eternal nature, Adhyatmam, the self, Uchat is called, Bhuto Bhavo Udbhavo Karo, producing the material bodies of the living entities. Visharga, creation, karma, creative activities. Sangita is called. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the indestructible transcendental living entity is called Brahma, and his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma, or fruitive activities. Brahma is indestructible and eternally existing, and its constitution is not changed at any time. But beyond Brahma, there is Parabrahma. Brahman refers to the living entity, and Parabrahma refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The constitutional position of the living entity is different from the position it takes in the material world. In material consciousness, its nature is to try to be the Lord of matter, but in spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness, his position is to serve the Supreme. When the living entity is in material consciousness, he has to take on various bodies in the material world. That is called karma, or varied creation by the force of material consciousness. In the Vedic literature, the living entity is called Jivatma and Brahma, but he is never called Parabrahma. The living entity takes different positions. Sometimes he merges into the dark material nature and identifies himself with matter, and sometimes he identifies himself with the superior spiritual nature. Therefore, he is called the Supreme Lord's marginal energy, or Tatastha Shakti, situated in the merge bank. According to his identification with material and spiritual nature, he receives a material or spiritual body. In material nature, he may take a body from any of the 8.4 million species of life. But in spiritual nature, he has only one body. In material nature, he is manifested sometimes as a man, demigod, animal, beast, birds, etc., according to his karma. To attain material heavenly planets and enjoy their facilities, he sometimes performs sacrifices. But when his merit is exhausted, he returns to earth again in the form of a man. This process is called karma. Shine punne martoloko vishanti. Chandogya Upanishad describes the Vedic sacrificial process. On the sacrificial altar, 5 kinds of offerings are made into 5 kinds of fire. The 5 kinds of fire are conceived of as the heavenly planets, clouds, the earth, man, and woman. And 5 kinds of sacrificial offerings are faith, the enjoyer on the moon, rain, grains, and semen. In the process of sacrifice, the living entity makes specific sacrifices to attain specific heavenly planets and consequently receives them. When the merit of sacrifice is exhausted, the living entity descends to earth in the form of rain, then takes on the form of grains, and the grains are eaten by man and transferred into semen, which impregnates a woman, and thus the living entity once again attains the human form to perform sacrifice and so repeat the same cycle. In this way, the living entity perpetually comes and goes on the material path. The Krishna conscious person, however, avoids such sacrifices. He takes directly to Krishna consciousness and thereby prepares himself to return to Godhead. Impersonalist commentators on the Bhagavad Gita unreasonably assume that Brahma takes the form of Jiva in the material world. And to substantiate this, they refer to chapter 15, verse 7 of the Bhagavad Gita. But in this verse, the Lord also speaks of the living entity as an eternal fragment of myself. The fragment of God, the living entity may fall down into the material world, but the Supreme Lord never falls down. Therefore, this assumption that the Supreme Brahman assumes the form of Jiva is not acceptable. It is important to remember that in Vedic literature, Brahman is distinguished from Parabrahman. Next answer. Question. Odhivutam ksharabhava purushashchadhidaivatam odhijaggo aham evatro dehe deho pritambaro. Odhivutam, the physical manifestation, kshara, constantly changing, bhava, nature. Purusha, the universal form, including all the demigods, like the sun and moon, and Odhi Daivatam, called Odhi Daiva. Odhi Yoga, the super soul, Aham, I, it was certainly Atra in this. They would, Deho Pritam of the embodied for O best. Translation. O best of the embodied beings, the physical nature, which is constantly changing, is called Adhibhuta, the material manifestation, Panchabhut. The universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods, like those of the sun and moon, is called Adhi Daiva. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the Super Soul in the heart of every embodied being, am called Adhi Jagga, the Lord of Sacrifice. Here answers three. Adhi Bhuta, Adhi Daivan, Adhi Jagga. Adhi Bhuta means this material manifestation, Pancha Mahabhut. And Adhi Daiva means universal form of the body, where all the demigods are there. And Adhi Yagga, Lord in form of super soul. The physical nature is constantly changing. Material bodies generally pass through 6 stages. They are born, they grow, they remain for some duration, they produce some byproducts, they dwindle, and then they vanish. This physical nature is called Adhibhuta. Adhibhuta Kshara Bhav. Kshara is changing. But Jivatma is not changing, but Jivatma sometimes called Sharajiv. But those are fallen down from the spiritual world, the Ksharajiv. But Jiv is falling down in spiritual, that is why they are calling Sharajiv. But here, Adhibhuta Kshara Bhava. Those are changing, not the soul that one. But he fall down. That is why their word is there, Kshara. But here, the nature is Kshara. Nature is changing. That is Adhibhuta. Like the material manifestation was changing. It's created at a certain point and it will be annihilated at a certain point. Jatashvedha. As somebody is created, the history of creation might be the history of destruction also. Form of the Supreme Lord, which includes all demigods and the different planets, is called Adhidaiva. What is Adhidaiva? Adhibhuta is cleared here. What is Adhidaiva? The concept of the universal form of the Supreme Lord, which includes demigods and their planets, the Adhidaiva. And present in the body, along with the individual soul, is Super Soul, the plenary representation of the Lord, of Lord Krishna. The Super Soul is called Paramatma or Adhi Jagga. These three answers. And is situated in the heart. Riddesha Arjun Tishtati. The word Eva is particularly important in the context of this verse, because by this word, the Lord stresses that the Paramatma is not different from him. The Super Soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, seated beside the individual soul, is the witness of the individual soul's activities and is the source of the soul's various types of consciousness. Super Soul gives the individual soul an opportunity to act freely and witness his activities. The functions of all these different manifestations of the Supreme Lord automatically become clarified for the pure Krishna conscious devotee engaged in transcendental service to the Lord. The gigantic universal form of the Lord, called Adhidaiva, Daivata, is contemplated by the neophyte who cannot approach the Supreme Lord in his manifestation as Super Soul. The neophyte is advised to contemplate the universal form or Virat Purush, whose legs are considered the lower planets, whose eyes are considered the sun and moon, and whose head is considered the upper planetary system. So 6 questions the answer is given. The seventh question is Antokale. How one can live body? Antokale cha mahamevo smaran mukta kale varam. Ja prayat isha mat bhavam. Jati nastat sanksha. Antokale, at the end of life. Ja also me, evo, certainly. Smaran, remembering. Mukta kalevaram, quitting the body. Ja prayati, he who goes. Sha, he. Mat bhavam, my nature jati, achieves. No, not. Asti, there is. Atra here, sanshaya, doubt. Translation. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attain my nature. Prabhupada is giving so much stress, remembering me. He is saying, remembering me as an avatar, remembering me alone. At once attain my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Nastatra sanshaya. In this verse, the importance of Krishna consciousness is stressed. Anyone who quits his body in Krishna consciousness is at once transferred to the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the purest of the pure. Therefore, anyone who is constantly Krishna conscious is also the purest of the pure. The word Shmaran is important. Remembrance of Krishna is not possible for the impure soul who has not practiced Krishna consciousness in devotional service. Therefore, one should practice Krishna consciousness from the very beginning of life. If one wants to achieve success at the end of his life, the process of remembering Krishna is essential. Therefore, one should constantly, incessantly, Bhagavad gives so much stress. Therefore, one should constantly, incessantly chant the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. Lord Chaitanya has advised that one be tolerant as a tree. There may be so many impediments for a person who is chanting Hare Krishna. Nonetheless, tolerating all these impediments, one should continue to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. So that at the end of one's life, one can have the full benefit of Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada is telling twice Hare Krishna Mahamantra, just in between only one sentence. Twice he mentioned. Because here discussing at the time of death how much important chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And how you can remember Krishna at the time of death? For that, question may come, if unable to remember Krishna, what will happen? Whatever you remember, you will achieve that. No, no, no. I don't want to go there. Then practice for that. For remembering Antakale, should practice from now. If you want to write nicely in question paper, answer sheet, so then you have to study whole the year. That answer will come following verses. Hare Krishna. Okay, Gaurangi.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for the wonderful class. Actually, my question is from the purport of third shloka. Prabhupada writes that the material nature, he may take a body from any of 84 lakh species of life, but in spiritual nature, he has only one body. So my question, and further he writes that in material nature, he is manifested sometimes as a man, demigod, animal, beast, birds, etc. So in 84 lakh species, when we heard the description of these species, in according to Padma Puran, so there is no name of demigods. So in which category we should consider
Demigods
demigods?
are falling in the in human. 4 million demigod are coming in that. Jalajan Navalakshani, Sthavara Lakshvikshati, Krima Riddha Shankoko, Pukshinam Dashalaksh. Tringsha Lakshani, Pashavo, Chatur Lakshani Manava. So, human is top. So, from human being up, demigods, all are coming in the category of human.
And the residents of Siddhaloka, Tapaloka.
Everybody human. They what above human being, all are in the human category.
Thank you. Can I ask another one?
Okay.
This is from Krishna book. Actually, today we are reading Govardhan Puja. So it was mentioned that Krishna ने तर्जनी उंगली पर गोवर्धन को उठाया. So tarjani means index finger. But when we
Maybe I wrote that. Read that.
yes,
You
yes,
should
yes.
see the English translation. It is a little finger, but
Yes, it is
but,
little finger.
you can see the English translation. Maybe,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, tell me tomorrow after reading them.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Hari Bol.
Hare
Shri Prabhupada ki Bhagavad as it is.